It's been an almost impossible few months for businesses. It's been hard enough trying to just deal with the day-to-day disruptions to sales and to processes, let alone trying to peer through the fog of unknowns and maybes to get some sort of picture of what the future might look like. But as the data comes in, as we study and analyse that data, as the end slowly rolls into sight and some of those unknowns disappear, a picture of the future consumer is starting to appear. And the three things are emerging within that picture. Three things that will be essential to the new consumer, to the post-pandemic consumer. Three needs, three wants, three things they'll look to brands for. And those three things are safety, serenity, and community. Safety and serenity and community. And I want to take a few moments now just to look at those, to get a sense of why they'll be important and what they might mean for businesses, the opportunities they might offer to businesses. So let's look at these three needs. First, safety first. A growing need for safety and security, not just for ourselves, but for our families, our friends, even our neighbourhoods. Because despite all the images we see on the television and the newspapers of public picnics in the park or protests about personal freedoms, actually the vast majority of Britons are more worried about lockdown being ended too soon. Over 75% of us are worried about health issues post-lockdown. So we'll see continued self-monitoring. We'll see DNA test kits being used to keep us virus-free. We'll see more nutraceuticals or Peloton bikes to keep us fit and healthy. We'll worry about public health as well. What about the hygiene of the cinema or the restaurant we're thinking of booking? And we'll worry about technology too. We'll want all our technology to be contact-free, whether that's iris scans or invisible payments or virtual reality. The idea of a touch screen in a public place like a shop or a museum will seem as bizarre as a bowl of peanuts left open on the bar of the local pub. And now where we worry about outdoor air quality and the sustainability of our packaging, post-pandemic, we'll shift some of that towards indoor air quality and the hygiene of our packaging. This is all part of a broader trend, as I say, for safety and security. The crisis hit a lot of people very hard, and it surprised a lot of people. People will want to be prepared for the next crisis. And yes, we might be a great accountant or a great manager, but how is that compared to being great at DIY or being great at a parent during a crisis? So we'll see more and more of us trying to learn adulting skills and signing up for classes. And from a brand point of view, well, we'll want the brands that we can trust to keep us safe. The brands that create healthy products, the brands that are transparent. And we'll also look for brands that can offer us that advice, or brands that can actually help us become increasingly healthy. It's not just our physical health that will matter. In the next trend, it's all about our mental health, our happiness, our state of mind. Anxiety levels even before lockdown were at their greatest rates ever, and the pandemic will only have accelerated that. It feels for many people like the last few years, from recession to Brexit and beyond, has been like an emotional and financial marathon. Like they've been on the go the whole time, and it's only now when they've been forced to stop that they're starting to realise how exhausted they are. So they'll be looking for ways to relax, ways to escape their comfort food or kidulting, a bit of self-care, maybe a spa treatment or a self-help book. More and more people are shunning the idea of FOMO, fear of missing out, and embracing JOMO, the joy of missing out, doing things offline increasingly. And yes, of course, our phones have been absolutely vital for keeping up with the social media of our friends and family. But increasingly, if you look at the polling, people have been doing offline, analogue things, gardening, going for walks in the park, playing jigsaws and board games. It's increasingly less about upgrading, less about consumerism, less about tech. And as part of all of this, there's a kind of reassessment of what matters. So we'll see more about the spiritual, the natural, the ethical. And this will matter to brands as well. For the last few months, a lot of consumers have been like little mini Santa Clauses, checking out which brands have been naughty and which have been nice during the crisis. It's going to matter what your brand does. It will also matter whether you've got a model that isn't based on technology, that isn't based on ownership, that isn't based on upgrades. The final need is for community, or the support of people like me. It's a need we saw growing even before the pandemic. Trust in institutions has been crumbling, whilst trust in peers has been soaring. It's been front and centre during lockdown too, whether that's trying to find ways to homeschool the kids or just amuse them, how to maintain relationships within households. How do you keep in touch with parents or with social groups? How do you help your neighbours or be helped by them? And this will continue post-pandemic too, whether that's the importance of user reviews, social media, micro-influencers. We'll see more and more friends and family moving closer together. We might see bigger households too, as not only the kids move back in, but perhaps the grandparents do as well. We'll see the rise of mixed-use hubs, live workspaces, and so on. We'll also see the local area becoming more important, especially as we see more people going into home working. And brands will need to take care of this too. Brands will need to look after the local communities around their offices and around their factories. They'll perhaps do a little bit of co-opetition with some of their rival groups within their sector. We'll see them look at ways to deal with live, work, play hubs. And most importantly, the most successful brands will be those that create consumer families, brand families, that combine not only the brand but the customers too, like Lego or Patagonia have done. It's hard to plan for an unseen future. But as the picture of the post-pandemic consumer becomes clearer, something else becomes clearer too. The opportunities for brands that can find ways to cater to the new needs of the new consumer. Brands that can help their customers find safety, serenity, and community.